So I'll give you a quick overview in what we've been doing, how we've been preparing. My name is Mick Gentleman, Minister for Police and Emergency Services. Can I acknowledge my parliamentary colleagues too? Nicole Lauder, I see Mark Parton over here, Dave Smith is over here, and Rebecca, our Auslan interpreter. Thanks, Rebecca, for coming along tonight. So you'll all have a number of questions, I would imagine, so if it's okay, what we might do is I'll give the overview of what we've been doing in the last couple of months. Chris Condon is our local RFS expert in working with the rural landholders across the ACT, and Joe Murphy, the Chief of the Rural Fire Service, will be here very shortly to give you the really detailed on-the-ground work. So starting with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a very dry season leading up to Christmas this year. Probably one of the driest we've seen in the ACT in my lifetime. I was born here in Canberra, so I've watched it grow over many years. And with that dry season, we have seen very bad fire conditions. So whilst we've, with our bushfire operational plan, been able to reduce a lot of fuel load in the ACT with strategic grazing, with working with farmers on strategic slashing as well, and of course prescribed burns over the time. The fuel load is still there. It's very dry. As you've seen, lots of fires have started to the west of the ACT, to the east of the ACT before Christmas, and now of course in the ACT with the Orroral fire. So you've heard probably why the Orroral fire started. It was an incident with a Army helicopter that was helping us out setting landing zones for the fire. They had a landing light on the back of the helicopter. Unfortunately, when they landed to set up the landing zone, the fire caught instantly and actually engulfed the rear of the helicopter. They were able to get away, thankfully, safely and relocate to our heli base. But since then, of course, we had an immediate call that the fire had started. And so engagement with Rural Fire Service, ESA and the aerial appliances started very, very quickly. With that though, we've had very difficult bushfire conditions, and you've seen the fire move in a different way. So our mapping experts in ESA have shown that they expected the fire to travel in a certain way, and it did follow that sequence for the first few days. After that though, we had an actual drop in wind, as you saw just the other day, and it eased conditions in the ACT. That meant that the fire started to create its own path and moved closer to the southern areas of the ACT. Tharwa is a good example, Nace Road, Beaubien Road, those areas there. So we moved fairly quickly to ensure that everybody knew what was happening with the fire front. We engaged of course in a communications way, both with our website, with our social media, with ABC and other television and journalists in the ACT, and I hope all of that messaging got out to you. As the fire movement changed, we changed our message tack as well and brought you along the alert level. So this is the first time we've had a statement of alert in the ACT, in my knowledge, I think, and immediately we appointed that statement of alert, but we also appointed the emergency controller. So our ESA Commissioner, Georgina Whelan, has the powers of emergency controller, which means she can direct resources around the ACT, but also draw resources from other jurisdictions and indeed the ADF, which is fantastic. Since we started doing the work on this particular fire, we've had a lot of support from the federal government with the ADF, and indeed even last night at 2 a.m. another 100 soldiers landed in the ACT. So we've got great support. We have fantastic provisions in place to ensure we can combat the fire as best as possible while the conditions remain as safe for our firefighters to go out and combat that fire. We've seen a bit of a lull in the fire today, as you've seen. Still smoky conditions, of course, but a lull in the fire itself. With it, prior to today, you would have seen all of those spottings yesterday. That meant that we saw actual flames around Tennant. We saw the big smoke plume. It wasn't large enough to start to create its own weather, but it was getting very, very close. We're hoping for another lull tomorrow, better conditions, but we're not going to wait for that lull. The Commissioner is looking now at some backburning in the fire front to the northeast of the fire and to the southeast of the fire. There's an opportunity for us there to take this place now, while the fire is a bit slower, to come in and actually address it, to ensure that if the wind does pick up, we can get in front in those particular areas. Later on, we might see a wind change later this evening from the east, which would mean that it would push the fire back towards where it came from, which would be a good thing for all of us. I think it will blow a bit of the smoke away as well. So our ESA, our bushfire people on the ground, our SES, our Commissioner Georgina Whelan has done an absolutely sensational job. And Canberrans have done a fantastic job in keeping calm, in ensuring they have a bushfire plan in place, talking to their neighbours and their families about what they might do if they have to evacuate. In the meantime, of course, we've had our ACT police officers, SES, out and about door knocking, advising people to be prepared if you do need to evacuate. We haven't had the fire hit the urban area at this time, so we're very pleased that that hasn't occurred. It doesn't mean it won't occur though. So we have some terrible days coming up, Friday and Saturday. Very difficult conditions for firefighters, but we are preparing well in advance for that. I mentioned that we had the ADF assets. We also have their aircraft, and we have large air tankers as well as very large air tankers, and the small helicopter spotter planes. So our special intelligence gathering helicopter, the SIG helicopter, is able to look through, I hope I'm not going too fast, Rebecca, is able to look through cloud, smoke and rain and identify an ignition source. So if we have a lightning strike from the storm, the SIG helicopter is able to go up, identify a source. We're then able to bring a helicopter with a water bombing bucket and relieve the fire at that point. Sometimes they don't go out though, and our people on the ground have to go in as a raft team and then deal with that fire on the ground. Joe has some maps here that will show you how the fire has moved over the last few days and where we expect it could move, and the containment lines and the preparation we're putting in place to ensure that we can address the fire. So Chris is going to have a few words, Joe will have a few words as well, and then Senior Sergeant Anderson will tell you about the work that they've been doing in not only their door knocking and bringing awareness, but also in planning for evacuation if needed, traffic control, and the management of, I guess, the people in Canberra that want to actually get out and have a look at the fires as well. So with that, I'll hand over to Chris first, and then Joe will take most of the detail. Thank you.
So I've been working closely with our rural landholders that are adjacent to Namadgi National Park. We've been working closely with them to identify very strategic containment lines that we would be able to use as the fire does come out of Namadgi National Park. Because containment lines currently within the Mount Tennant area are just too difficult and dangerous to put in. It's too steep and it'd be dangerous to put machinery in there. We've worked closely with them to identify where they've got lower fuels. So given such a catastrophic drought, we're seeing a lot of areas where there's very little grass, which we'll be able to use as strategic zones to try and slow the spread of that fire down. Then we are seeing a lot of dieback in vegetation out there in our eucalypts and shrubs due to the drought, with large areas that are starting to cure right off, which means we're seeing fuels that are available from the ground to the canopy of the trees, which exacerbates the fire behaviour. But we are working closely with the landholders, making sure their stock's safe, making sure their plans are implemented, and that we do have identified property protection strategies for them, whether they are able to self-protect their properties or whether they do need support. And that's about all I can give on the rural landholder side.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Minister. We will, folks, bar out. And I do apologise for those who are listening to ABC this afternoon when I said I'd be here at 6 o'clock sharp. My apologies for that. We will take questions. Actually, we're here to take questions this evening. We'll ask you to listen to us first, listen to what we have to say. I'll try and show you a bit about the map. It's not really too clear, but all this information's online. We are sharing all this information online with you. So what I want to do is just talk to you a bit about what we're doing. Chris talked a bit about what he's doing. We've got the police working with us. So just a bit of a rundown for those about how serious we are taking this. I know that this has already covered some of this. We had the opportunity to go down to Darwin this afternoon to see the strike team. So there was a team being formed up this afternoon down at the Southern Brigade shed to work tonight. This is this is close to 24-hour operation. So we've got Rural Fire Service volunteers, Parks and Conservation Service. We've got fire and rescue. We've got ambulance support for all our firefighters while they're on the ground. We have SES out there door knocking, doing support for us in the background. We're using the SES Cornwall shed as one of our staging areas right now. We've got the Australian Defence Force who've brought in heavy plant, paramedics, staff, helicopters, the works. They've put 250 people now, Minister, have been committed to the ACT. That's 250 Army Reserves have been committed to the ACT. We've had senior representation from the ADF into the ACT as well. The entire resources of the ACT government are behind this effort to keep the Canberra community and the broader ACT community safe. I say that absolutely, generally 100%. Everybody in the ACT government is here to support keeping the ACT community safe from this fire. So we know a bit about the fire. It's 10,500 hectares as of about a couple of hours ago. It continues to grow and it will continue to grow. Chris just highlighted some of the issues we have trying to work in that steep, rugged, extraordinarily dry country. Those here in 2003? Right, that was dry. It is drier now than it was in 2003. Just want to put that out there, folks. That is how dry it is. The spotting we saw yesterday. Yesterday was an extraordinary day to be in Canberra. Chris was down yesterday working with the landholders south of Thal yesterday, keeping them safe. That's how committed we are. We had a fire and rescue strike team sit in Tharwa last night just to make sure that the Tharwa community is made safe. We had firefighters down there last night just to make sure people were kept safe last night. We're running 24/7 operations out of our ESA headquarters to make sure you're kept safe. That's our commitment to you. Alrighty, enough about that. 10,500 hectares as of last count. It continues to grow and it will continue to grow. We're expecting to see fire danger ratings escalate through this week. Friday and Saturday are our two dangerous days. What we saw yesterday with that unprecedented fire weather may well occur Friday and may well occur again on Saturday. Right? We are expecting to see 40-degree heat. We're expecting to see some moderate winds, not real big gusty winds, some moderate winds. All that happened the other day with moderate winds. We will see spotting. Everything we saw the other day will occur again this Friday and Saturday. These are northwest winds that we are predicting. That the Bureau of Meteorology is predicting. So from the northwest, moving to the southeast. So it's pushing the fire around the back of Mount Tennant and further into Nace Valley, further down the Boyne Road, further down into Apollo Road, further through the Orroral Valley. So, and we have a whole lot of landholders that Chris and his team are working with to make sure they're kept safe. We're here to make sure you're kept safe as well. Right, so the fire, with all its predictions, will continue to move in a southeasterly direction. As we know, in the afternoons we sometimes get an easterly that comes in, and they will continue to push it further into the park areas, into that heavily forested, rugged area. It will continue to burn. This fire is not going to go out in the short term. This fire is going to take either a significant rain event or some really mild conditions so that we can get the boots on the ground, the aircraft in the air to put this out. It's going to take a while, folks. It really is. We're expecting milder conditions from Sunday into early next week. Much milder conditions. Actually, probably a bit milder than today, I think was the prediction, wasn't it, Chris? Yeah. So, what I'm saying to you is, we've got to get through this weekend. Not holding back, folks. We've got to get through this weekend. We need your support. So, for the people who are living in southern part of Tuggeranong, stay safe. That's the first thing, stay safe. Stay connected to your families. Make sure they know where you are at all times. If you have not, I should have brought some bushfire survival plans, I didn't. If you have not done a bushfire survival plan, I need you to do that. I know we've been banging on about this for a very long time now. There's a fire 16 kilometres away from the southern points of Tuggeranong. Do your bushfire survival plan. Sit down with your family, or if you're in a group house, sit down with your group house. But everybody who lives in your house has a part to say in that bushfire survival plan. You go through it, it'll ask you all the questions you need to know. It just goes, it steps you right through it. At the end, you agree to the actions. You agree to triggers for those actions. If those triggers are met by what we are telling you, what the ESA is telling you about what's happening, you enact your actions. You don't second guess yourself. You've already done the thinking now. You do not second guess yourself. So if your triggers say that if it comes up the road and does this and gets this far away from our property, we're going to go and stay at Mum's place, then I don't want you going out the road, out the front and driving down the road just to check to make sure we're telling you the truth. You know what? Unfortunately, the research says that most of you are going to do that. Kid you not. Now is not the time to go for that drive. And besides that, we've restricted access down the Tharwa Road anyway. I want you to go to Mum's place. Gather your possessions, gather your pets, gather your kids. Don't forget your kids. And go to Mum's place, or Dad's place, or wherever it is you're going to go that's safe. If we need to, and I'll get Sergeant Anderson to talk about this in a minute, if we need to open up an evacuation centre, we will tell you we are opening an evacuation centre. Do not assume an evacuation centre is open. Do not make that assumption. Until we tell you it's open, until it is officially announced by the ESA, it is not true. I'm going to come back to that one in a second. Your best option, the best place to stay is with family and friends. You'll be far more comfortable. Your pets will be far more comfortable. You'll have space to do the things you need to do. Evacuation centres are called evacuation centres for a reason. So they cram you in there, not quite this cram, but they cram you in there, depending on how many people get there. If you've got horses, horse people, anybody, any horse people? Not me. All right, not too many horse people. So you already know, horse people are really well prepared for this sort of activity already. They're already thinking about this. I now need you to download that bushfire survival plan and do your bit to stay safe. Alrighty, I want to come back to a bit about being prepared and moving off and following your triggers. Now, we've heard that people are actually, we've got people coming in to look at the fire. So some of you would have been in the banks in Gordon area where people are getting to the high ground and they want to look at the fire. We are doing our best to dissuade that from happening. We're really trying to discourage people from actually doing that. The Commissioner has used the word, disaster tourism. Okay? It's an absolutely apt term. We don't want people clogging the streets. We don't want people rubbernecking over your backyard trying to get a view of the fire. So, I don't want you to be rude to them. I don't want you to even confront them. Just be cool and be safe about it, right? We're doing our best. We're working with the police. We're just trying to restrict people's movements for those sorts of activities. There's some fantastic photos online. You don't get it. The best sunset you get is when there's smoke in the air. Unfortunately, that beautiful red happens when there's smoke. But there's some great photos online. We really encourage people to go there to get that. What haven't I covered? So my brain's trust, what haven't I covered? We'll get to those in a second. I'm going to get Sergeant Anderson to talk in a second bit about the evacuations, what the police are doing. Nothing at this stage? Nothing to think about?
You've got a map. Where's the fire?
I do have a map. Do you want to see? It's not real flash. Alrighty, so... Alrighty. This is the southern part of Tuggeranong. This is the fire. This is Mount Tennant, the top of Mount Tennant right here. Alright, the fire is travelling in this direction. It travelled the other night in this direction and that direction.
Can you show us on the other side as well?
Yep. So it travelled travelled in this direction and easterly as well. That's how it's done all this work here with the spotting. This map is online in a couple of different various forms. This map is available online.
Can't read it.
What do you think? If you've got the website, you can zoom in and see what's going on. Really, folks, zoom in on the website. The website is where the best mapping is. Fires Near Me has the best mapping. It doesn't update quite as often as we do, but we keep it as up to date as we can. Just know there's a large 10,000 hectare fire to the southern part of Canberra. I don't need you to understand how big it is, about exactly where it is. I need you to understand your place in the city, what you're going to do when the warnings are issued. That is the most important message I will give you tonight about this. We're fighting the fire, that's our gig. We're fighting the fire. It's your job to keep yourself safe, to keep your family safe, to make sure that you stay connected and keep your family informed of what you are doing. I cannot reiterate enough that you need to keep telling your family about what you're doing and where they are. You're not the only ones worrying about this. Your family is also worrying about this as well. You know this already. They're already calling you. They're already asking you, are you okay? You need to make sure you do that two-way contact, all right? All righty, Mr. Anderson.
And it's my favourite Superintendent Anderson coming. The CPO is going to give me a slap on the wrist later on. But while he comes to the mic, can I just ask you to thank the Vikings Club for putting this on and also hosting our
Thank you, Minister. Look, the police's role in this emergency is to support the Rural Fire Service and the other emergency services to keep you safe. And our role, together with everyone else, as I said, is to keep you safe. Over the last few days, you would have seen green, blue and orange overalls walking around your suburbs, knocking on doors, talking to people, reassuring you about where the fire is, what the progress is and where evacuation centres are. And importantly, having that bushfire plan prepared. If you don't have one, start thinking about it right now. You will continue to see that over the next few days. You may see more green uniforms, you may see more blue uniforms, and you'll certainly see more orange uniforms. That's nothing to be alarmed about. The footprint that I want to spread across southern Tuggeranong will be enough to keep you informed and keep you safe. Because not everybody is going to look on the internet, not everyone's going to listen to the radio, but we want to make sure that you get the information that you need to keep yourself safe. Joe Murphy made a very good point. The people most responsible for keeping you safe is you, making smart decisions and being prepared. There was mention of that term rubbernecker. Unfortunately, we've already had incidents where traffic has been obstructed, and more importantly, emergency service vehicles, fire trucks have been obstructed to get to places because people parked along the side of the road to get the best photo opportunity. Last night we dispatched patrols to Point Hut Crossing because of the amount of traffic there, and our firefighters were unable to get through that part of Point Hut Crossing to get to the fire because people were parked up taking photos. Not only is that endangering people and hindering emergency services, we have options available to deter people from doing that activity. You don't want that deterrent. I prefer people to take the common sense approach and not be in those areas. Finally, on evacuation centres, as Joe Murphy said, you will be advised where the evacuation centres are, which one are open, and what they are for. So at the moment, the evacuation centre that's open is at Erindale College. There are other facilities around the ACT in the Tuggeranong Valley and outside of there that we can activate at a moment's notice for both as a respite centre or an evacuation centre. And we will provide that information to you. That is part of our planning in relation to evacuations. Those plans are well in place. They're agreed to by all the agencies. We all know how they're going to operate, and we activate them based on circumstances and the situation. So there's no point spreading details of that evacuation plan until we actually need to evacuate. As I said, you will see an increased number of people in green uniforms, blue uniforms and orange uniforms over the coming days, out in the suburbs. That's nothing to be alarmed about. On the contrary, they're there to reassure you and give you information, provide advice and any other support or help that you need.
When you say we don't need to know about evacuation, I get that, where's the fire, etc. But there are 2 roads out, so I think everyone's wondering, what are your plans for managing traffic on the 2 roads?
So as part of the evacuation plan, and it all depends on where the threat's coming from, where we need to move people to, but part of our evacuation plan includes that traffic management plan, where detour signs, where traffic direction will be in place, so you'll know which way to go. Absolutely. And I can't say we'll use Woodcock Drive or we'll use Drakeford Drive or Tharwa Drive.
It'll experience what it's
Yep.
like when one of the ways out was closed to both of them.
Yep.
And there was no panic at that point.
Yep.
So what are your plans for managing that? No, I understand what you're saying, but anything more specific you can give us?
No, because I can't be more specific about where the threat's coming from. So if the threat is coming from the west or from the south, it will determine what are the best egress and access routes. And that'll be determined by advice from the RFS, what the conditions are, time of day that we need to move people and where we need to move them to. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning or it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the traffic volume on the roads are very different. So it's really situationally dictated of what our plan will be. But we certainly will have people out there directing people, giving advice about which way to go or whether to actually stay at home.
I've had briefings with the CPO a number of years ago in preparation, should we ever need to evacuate the Lanyon Valley. The availability is we have 4 lanes that we could use going north on Tharwa Drive. We have 2 lanes that we could use on Woodcock to the roundabout at the bottom of Corwell. Those could all be activated. That's part of their thinking. Also, we look at the options of other opportunities. So I talked to Mark Parton this morning. RFS were up looking at the back of Theodore for access from the back into there using the gravel road as well. So there's fire trails that can be used as well as road access. All of those are in their plans and those are available to them to use if they need to continue to evacuate. Yeah. We're just being, we're just being careful that we don't want to alert people to take the road up behind Theodore if we're not evacuating. It's a very nice road.
Alright, so we're going to do this in a nice controlled manner. We're going to set a few ground rules though. We're going to point to the person, we'll identify the person who's going to ask the question. I will repeat the question so that everybody understands what is being asked, so we understand what we're talking about. Because I'm sure that most questions that get asked, they'll probably cover off from a few other people who are going to think about it as well. Some of the answers might be not what you are quite looking for as well, and you need to accept it and appreciate the fact that we're giving you what we can. The Commissioner has made it very clear. What we know, we are telling you we know. So when we know it, you will know it as well. Things like road closures, road blockages, where the fire's going to come from, when's it going to get here, these are things that we don't know. Those are the dynamic situations that we are committed to keeping you informed about. Cool with that? Alrighty, let's go. Man in the red.
Yeah, so based on the modelling that you've done to date, over the next sort of 3 to 4 days, are we looking at anything sort of heading back towards the suburban area? I know you sort of said you were looking to go a bit further south, but with the modelling, is it looking it's going to come up closer to the...
Alright, the question is the fire going to come our way, towards us as we speak right now? Is it going to come towards Tuggeranong? So what I'll say right now is, yesterday we saw unprecedented fire behaviour. We had a northwesterly wind stream and the fire travelled east. It should have travelled southeast. It travelled east. It went up the slopes. We get easterly breezes, we get southeasterly breezes as well. What I'm saying to you right now is, we do the best predictions we can with the modelling that's provided by the Bureau, with the experience of our fire and risk analysis people that are in the ESA, we do the best we can. We will share with you the fire maps as they approach. We will share with you the information as goes forward. I can't tell you whether it's going to come upon the suburbs. What we are committing to is, we'll give you the earliest possible warnings we can, and we'll keep you up to date. As we know, the fire didn't get to Tharwa, but we shut Tharwa down and we evacuated because the fire was coming hard over the hill towards Tharwa. We were concerned and they did the right thing. It was fantastic. Right, question? Yes, sir.
The Camera Connect phone number 13.
Yep. 13.81.
Was promoted as being 24-hour access. I had reason to call it 3 days ago. And the guy said no, you have to holiday through business hours.
All right, we'll take that one on notice, Minister. Thank you. We will. So that was a question about Access Canberra, 132281. That is one of the numbers you can call to get information about the fire. They have been extraordinarily busy, but the gentleman's pointed out here that there was some issues about them not understanding the information they should have been sharing. We'll take that one on notice. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
A scenario where you call it an evacuation of the suburb in the middle of the night, what sort of things are going to happen to wake people up?
Okay. Okay. So the question is, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm fast asleep, how do I know I should be getting an evacuation message? All right, so there's a couple of processes to this. The biggest one is that we will issue what's called an emergency warning. With that, we'll also issue what's called an emergency alert. And this is where, through a electronic system, a software system, we draw a picture, we draw a box around some areas, and we type in a text message. Your landline and every mobile phone in that area will receive that message. So it will ring your landline and you'll hear a robotic voice read out the message that we give it. One was issued over Tharwa the other day. Some people living in banks probably received that message because their mobile phones affiliate to the towers near banks. Yeah, so that's right. So some people got that as well. That's why we're very clear. This message is for this area because we know it does spread and populate. So what you'll receive is multiple channel alerts. The one we rely on in that circumstance is the emergency alert. So have your mobile switched on, have your landline in the house as well if you still have one. I don't have a landline anymore, we rely on mobile phones. Down to the yes, lady.
Does that override the do not disturb function on our phones?
I don't know. So we'll, you know what? Okay, so the question was, does the emergency alert override do not disturb? I would doubt it. We'll take that one back on notice, and we'll actually, so we can't make it to override your phone settings. We'll put some media out about that which says, do not use, do not disturb at night time when you know. We understand that people might do that, and it reminds me I need to turn my phone back on. I was doing some media this afternoon. Just reminds me, so you will take it on notice, but we'll get some media about that. Thank you very much. Oh, we've got a recall on that one, do we?
Yeah, another question.
Fire away.
Evacuation centres,
Yep.
who are they staffed by and do you require volunteers for them?
All right, so evacuation centres, so you can help me with this one, Mr. Anderson, if we need to. So they're staffed by Community Services Directorate. They're normally in education facilities, so we've got 2 directorates already working together to do that. And they sometimes do call out for volunteers, but please wait for the call and we'll put the call out for volunteers. But yeah, at this stage, so Community Service Directorate, they actually use their professional partners, which are Red Cross, St John's and the work, will also come and support them as well, but they may well seek volunteers. Is that pretty well, Mark? Okay, thanks. Alrighty, this gentleman here.
Great presentation, guys. Thanks for that. We've got ash falling about 6 months.
Yep.
Any chance that enders will fall that time?
All right, so that's a question about the ash that's currently falling. So yes, there's a lot of cold ash falling across the fire ground right now. So that's ash has been lofted quite high. It shows you how hot that fire is. It's lifting a lot of hot air into the atmosphere, and then ash is then falling cold. So what I'll say is, in the suburbs right now, no. Out on the fire ground, yes, because the heat will carry. This is a very small ash, and these are leaves which have been aloft for quite a while. They're unlikely to carry any heat. Normally stringy bark, those long strings of bark which carry the heat, and we've seen some of that that's what really caused a lot of that issue. I think, where's Chris gone? That was really what the issue was at Bantana, wasn't it? Yes. Yeah, so your experience right now, we're not seeing anything carry significantly, are we?
No. Humidity's coming up overnight, so the humidity tonight will help cool embers down a lot.
Yeah. All right, so that's moisture in the air, humidity, it'll cool things down, but stay alert to what is happening around you. Right, there's a hand up right down the back there.
Can I ask how accurate the app is? this because I'm finding it's very erratic.
How accurate the app?
Yeah.
Which app, the Fires Near Me app, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and look, it told me last night that the fire had gone away from Canberra, 25k away from my immediate area, which is 10 k's. And this morning it said it was 12 k's from Gordon.
Right, haven't heard that. Chris can answer this one, you beauty.
Blame Joe though. So the reason that you'll see that it moves closer and further away is there's an icon on there that we actually use for crews to navigate to certain areas. Because we're bringing interstate crews from New South Wales Rural Fire Service, we need to move it so they're able to navigate to these areas because they're unfamiliar with them. That's why on the Fires Near Me New South Wales app, you will see the shape of the fire on there. So you'll be able to see roughly how far that is from where you are. So don't rely on the diamond itself and the distance because it may move around the fire ground for that reason, so we can get interstate and crews unfamiliar with the area into there, and that'll be why that is. But you'll be able to see the shape of the fire on there.
Thank God we had an operational person here. What I would suggest for those people using the Fires Near Me app, you need to set up a watch zone which covers the entire part of the southern ACT. That way you'll get all the warnings that are associated with that fire all the time. All right. Oh yeah. So on Fires Near Me, one of the options you've got to set up what's called a watch zone. So I've got one over northern ACT, southern ACT, my sister's place out in the southern highlands, and my dad's place up near Kempsey. So you can send them for anywhere in New South Wales you want, and I receive all the warnings that are because they expect me to look after them. So I can keep an eye on them. So to see what's happening in their local areas. So please, I do encourage you to set up watch zones. You can do 7 watch zones for the app. 7's a lot, and you can make them out to, what's it, 25, 50 k's? About 50 k's out, that's a long way. Yeah, sorry? Yeah, so 5's, sorry? Okay, so, well, we're not going to talk about how we do it now. Come and see us later on, we'll talk about it. This Fires Near Me.
Just one thing about Fires Near Me. There's 2 Fires Near Me. There's a Fires Near Me and a Fires Near Me New South Wales. Fires Near Me New South Wales, you can set up the watch zones in, and all ACT bushfire incidents go into a Fires Near Me New South Wales. So you need the Fires Near Me New South Wales app to be able to get those watch zones.
All right, gentlemen with the orange shirt on.
Could you list off the sources of information, TSA website?
What a great question.
What else?
Yep. This one Jamie's going to remind me about. That's cool. All right, so just so you know, so Jamie's one of our media people, so the source of truth is the ESA website. Everything starts and finishes there, all right? Source of truth, the ESA website. ESA Facebook page, ESA Twitter. Fires Near Me app are the 4 big ones that we list. Then we have local media. Now, the local media, I'm not choosing any local media, any local media here. Anybody who's been listening to the radio for the last couple of weeks would know what a great job the TV and the radio are doing in promoting and repeating our messages back out there. The local media are also your friends. Now, power. If you lose power, you need a battery operated radio to stay connected to the local media, because eventually your phone will go flat. So just think about that, a small battery powered operated radio, just as a contingency in the back pocket, in a box somewhere, just in case. So yeah, so that's the main ones. Jamie, have I got them all? Ali, got them all? Oh, yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're big on social media in the ACT, not just the ESA, in the ACT. We're really, really focused on social media, Facebook and Twitter. Yep, so Facebook and Twitter, please stay connected to those 2. Absolutely stay connected to those 2. And some of the imagery you'll get from our SIG and the photos from the fires, Facebook page is the place to go. Alrighty, next question. Gentleman with the tattoo on his arm.
Can you describe what we expect to see when we arrive at the evacuation centre?
Jeez, this might be one for you. What did I see at the evacuation centre?
So you'll have to provide some detail about where you're from and what you're also there, how long you expected to stay. There will be food and drinks available. There'll be some sleeping stuff. but it is cramped, it is uncomfortable. It's not going to be the Hotel Hilton. But the evacuation centres are also set up as respite centres. So if for whatever reason you're at home and it is too much, there is too much smoke and you want some respite from bushfires, from the information you're getting about bushfires, the safety, all that sort of thing, you can actually go there just to sit down and have a cup of tea with some people that are there and have a chat. So there are charities there that are able to talk to people and give you a little bit of respite if you need that from the fires.
Would there be traffic control and parking directions or parking directions?
There are directions. If the evacuation centres are set up as an evacuation centre itself, there will be signage pointing towards the evacuation centre. It may not say the name of the evacuation centre, but the VMRs, the big notice boards on the side of the road, will point towards where they are. The reason we don't want to name them is because firstly, we're not going to determine what the evacuation centre is until we actually need to stand it up. And secondly, we end up attracting too many people to an evacuation centre when we actually are only targeting certain areas. So if it's only a particular suburb we're evacuating, we only want those residents going there. Otherwise, we end up panicking people. If you see a big sign that says evacuation centre this way, people get concerned that there's evacuations going on everywhere where it's only just targeted to one area. Make sense?
Just on the back of that, just stand by a sec. So one of the things we want to mention here, this we see this a few times, so we're learning our lesson. This is us learning this lesson. And Superintendent Anderson did mention this before. When you see ESA people, police, ADF in your street door knocking, the people right now are there to keep you informed. If they are there and knock on your door and say it is now time to evacuate, that's the message they're sharing with you. If they come and say to you, I just want to make sure you're prepared and you understand what's going on, that is not the sign to evacuate. Please listen. Far out, to tell you. I need you to listen carefully to what these people are saying. They're there to help you. We're asking you to not overreact, to not overthink what's going on, to actually listen to what they're saying, ask some questions, and then they'll move on. If it's an evacuation, you will know that it is an evacuation. There'll be a whole different tone to the message, to the way it is being delivered, and it'll be short, sharp, and then moving on, because it's about getting the message out quickly. All right, that's enough banging on about that one. Good. Gentleman over there.
Can you just go back to the midnight evacuation? What's the next step after the text messages? And is an evacuation order, do we have to evacuate or can we stay in place?
Good question. Do you want to talk about whether you have to?
So we'll knock on your door and we'll knock hard, and if we believe there's someone in there, we'll be doing everything we can to wake you up and notify you. I should say it is highly unlikely that we evacuate people in the middle of the night, early in the morning. Highly unlikely. I've never heard of it. Not likely to happen. But we will make all those attempts. As Joe Murphy mentioned, the tone of the message that you receive from whoever knocks on your door will indicate the seriousness of our messaging. We will not be forcing people to evacuate. We will not be arresting people if they do not evacuate, for some very obvious reasons. We have limited resources, and we will move on to the next sensible person.
Alrighty. I'm looking for a lady. We haven't even took lady. Oh, here we go. Lady asking questions. Got to ask some ladies questions. Let's go.
When you say people are coming and they've been knocking, do they have identification?
Absolutely.
So the question was, will people who knock in the front door have identification? You should demand to see that identification and then follow their instructions. Absolutely.
They'll be in uniform. They'll be in a blue uniform, they'll be in a green uniform, or they'll be in an orange uniform.
You can buy some uniforms.
So we expect them to see photographic identification. You guys got photos in yours? Photographic identification. So all emergency service personnel for the ESA carry identification. All of them, you should expect to see it. You should expect to see and ask the questions. If you don't believe them, close the door politely, jump on our website, and then get the hell out. Alrighty, lady up the back. Yep.
Mine is more of a long-term question, thinking about the longevity of these fires. With school coming back, is there an early communication system with the schools, or do they get the same as what we do in the community?
So, in terms of, so this is about schools, it's just about...
With the longevity of the fires,
Oh,
we
sorry.
don't know, and do the schools get a communication since they're back in on Monday?
Yeah, so just so you know, so every day for the last how many weeks, Minister, we've been doing this? Long time. Every day, 7 days a week, we're doing what's called SEMSOG, Security Emergency Management Senior Officials Group. I'm a member, the Chief Police Officer is also a member, so it's basically every Director General in the ACT, all the directorates, all the Chief Officers of the ESA, Chief Police Officer, Chief Health Officer, all those sorts of people. We all come together at least once a day and we have a phone hookup and we talk about exactly that matter. So that was raised actually today. It was noted that schools are coming back on Monday. What are we going to do about respite centres, about evacuation centres? So that discussion is actually is on way right now. Alrighty, next question. Up the back, gentlemen. Yep.
Firstly, congratulations for the community engagement. So to you
Thank
guys
you.
for doing that. Further to what the advice you're giving us, the next few days are likely to be quite serious. What points can you give us to look at in the way of urban protection for those residents that would like to stay and defend their properties? Things like, for example, is there merit to putting sprinklers up on the roofs of their houses in the suburbs?
All right, great question. So the question is, if I'm going to stay and defend, what should I do? Is that pretty well what you're asking? All right. This is the same three things that I gave to Thawa in the Urugara village when I met with them about a week ago. So, should you get up on your roof with sprinklers up there? No. After 2003, the number of injuries that were caused by people being blown off their roof by the strong winds was just crazy. What you're required to do is get up a ladder, plug the downpipes of your gutters and put some water in them. Basically we want water in there so if embers fall in there, they go out. That's the purpose of putting water on your roof. It's not to wet your roof because it'll just dry out again. It's to put water in the gutter. Right, the most important thing I'll give you is if you're going to stay and defend your property, and this is a personal decision for you. None of us up here are going to make this decision for you. You, first of all, have to have your property prepared. Download the Bushfire Survival Plan, jump on our website, all the information's there. Do that first. Then you need to be physically prepared. Am I wearing boots, long pants, not your Adidas trackies, jeans, something that's made of cotton or wool, you know, something that's actually natural, a proper long sleeve shirt, have I got a good hat on or a helmet, goggles, a mask, gloves? Am I physically prepared to defend my property when it comes under ember attack? Am I prepared for that? And there's a gazillion videos online where you can watch this sort of thing. The most important thing, number 3, am I mentally prepared? Am I mentally prepared for an ember attack, for the sky to go black, for the noise of an approaching fire, for the wind, for the mental stress of my family and what this means? You need to give yourself some serious thought to those questions, and if you answer no to any one of those, you get the hell out. Cannot be any more direct about it than that. The mental preparation that you need to defend your property is the most important one. You must be mentally prepared. I know this is a really hard conversation to have and to hear me say it, but you must be mentally prepared for what is coming your way. Leaving early is the safest option in every single circumstance. The safest option. Folks, I know it is bricks and mortar, it is your homes, it's where you grew up. We can't replace you. Please remember that. Alrighty. Yes, lady here.
Let's go back to schools in terms of traffic, because you've got schools, all your water primary level high schools, Charleston, which you're first, I'm doing private schools. In terms of, yes, okay, we get through this weekend, they've already got day groups there. Traffic strikes in the middle of the day, the parents trying to get it. Is there going to be like a bus evacuation, 2 evacuation centres that parents will then know about? Because otherwise you're going to have a lot of parents trying to get through today.
Alright, so the question is about what happens when we're back into school and there's a whole lot of kids in the school and every parent wants to go and rescue their kids. We will give you as early notification as you can. The police will absolutely be controlling the traffic and we will expect you to respect them and to follow their directions. Absolutely must do that. Absolutely.
So can I add to that? When we had the fire at Beard, and there were a lot of people at Brindabella Park, roads were stopped to get into Brindabella Park, but we had children there. There was a childcare centre. Police actually shuttled the children out to their families. So we have police in position, ready to go if that needs to occur in small centres. But buses would be activated as well if we need to, if the parents couldn't get to the school.
So we've got schools, especially when there are 800 students
Yes.
per school.
Thanks. So the other one is, sometimes the safest option is shelter in place. So sometimes we'll say the 300 or 4 or 800 kids at the school will stay there, we will give them fire trucks and we will protect them. That might be the safest option. I know that's really hard to hear. This is your child. It's the little thing, that you've brought into the world. But that might well be the safest option. Probably the unsafest option is 800 cars trying to work their way through traffic to get to this school to rescue their child. This is what the police are going to manage. This is part of their tough gig. The rock and hard place that they work with to keep everybody safe all the time. These are dynamic, unfolding situations. We need you to follow our advice, follow our messages, and actually heed what we're saying. We did this at Brindabella Park the other day. We evacuated one building. Every other building in Brindabella Park out of the airport was told to shelter in place and stay where you are. That's what happened out of Brindabella Park while that Beard fire went ripping past. That was a pretty fast moving grass fire, folks. A lot of heat, big flames, shelter in place because the building and the structures are tough. They're strong. Way tougher than we are, way tougher than your cars are. Alrighty.
Sorry, just saying you said the school is the retirement village across here. I'm assuming it would be
Yep. So this is about retirement villages and like, so this is Community Services Directorate. So a bit about the way ESA is working right now. Down at ESA we have an operational centre and we have what's called an ECC, Emergency Coordination Centre. Police work out of there, all the other directorates work out of there, Community Services Director work out of there, and so the Health Directorate, Education Directorate. They're already thinking about that. We had a discussion about that just the other day, about a few particular villages down the south part of the ACT. Alrighty, I'm going to go to a male with a beard.
So when you were issuing out your watch and acts, you were getting the distance of the fire from Tharwa and from Banks. But when it switched to emergency alerts, you stopped giving those distances. Is there a reason why?
Yeah, so there is. So we have templates set up, and so it goes from being an informative sort of thing. So advice is very informative. Once every 24 hours, we're required to update an advice level fire. Once it gets to watch and act, we get down to about every 2 hours. We've got to get it updated like that. Once we get to emergency warning, it's directive. It's not about giving you information. It's about telling you what to do and what's happening. So when we talk about that tone change, where Rod talked about that as well, the tone will change, everything changes. In that message, the tone changes, and what we're telling you changes as well. That's why. So it's actually not about, I'm this far, it's like you are about to be impacted. This is what we require you to do. It's a really direct message. Alrighty, lady in yellow.
The other topic yesterday, I only had 20 minutes for evacuation before we told to stay too late to evacuate.
Yep.
How are all these people and everyone around going to get out in time without getting a bottleneck and essentially attract?
Right, so the question is, yesterday Tharwa had 20 minutes it turned into emergency warning of leave now, it's your best option. 20 minutes later it turned into shelter in place. It's too late to leave, it's too dangerous to leave. Alrighty, so what we're saying to people is, if your bushfire survival plan says when the fire gets to X, I'm going to follow my triggers and do what I need to do. A fast moving fire, that may well happen. I mean, a lot of grasslands between here and Tharwa, fire can move very rapidly. But it's about making those decisions. So if we suddenly say shelter in place your best option, your house is a solid, strong structure. Please don't be in your tin shed out the back. Be inside your house, be prepared. It'll be scary as hell if you get stuck there and you're not prepared for it. It will, no sugarcoating it, folks. It will be as scary as hell. No sugarcoating. But if we call that, we are saying that is your safest and best option. Get inside, make yourself safe. In your car, keep following their directions. Keep following. So if you hear the message which says evacuate now, then there'll also be other messages saying go this way. The police will be doing that. They'll be saying go this way. They'll be coming through ESA. Boom, off you go that way. And that's what you need to follow our instructions. Don't second guess yourself. Don't second guess us. Right, gentlemen there. I'll go down the back in a sec.
Given Friday conditions, Saturday's different for people who's not necessarily at work. If people can, would you recommend you don't go to work on Friday and
I don't want to really. So the question was. So the question is, somebody's looking for a leave pass. But it is in all seriousness. It's a good question. Should I be at home on Friday? Yep. And that's pretty common. You're right. So look, the question is, should I be at home or work, noting that it's going to be a bad day, we've got a fire in the landscape. I need you to look at what the fire's doing on Thursday, look at what advice we're providing about Friday. I can't make that decision for you. Look, if anybody here from, say, Griffith or Deakin or any of those central suburbs, I don't think you really need to worry about it. Down south, you should be watching the maps and watching the information, actually really having a good hard think about what that means. Absolutely. Right, I'm going down the back. Hands up down the back. Lady in green top, down the back.
For those of us with multiple pets having to evacuate in a hurry, what kind of support is there, and is there anything that we can do above and beyond to help?
Multiple pets.
So they're not horses, because we've got no horse people here at all. If you did have horses, you can go to Dixon College. You can take pets to the evacuation centres. Obviously not long term because of the other people that may be at the evacuation centres. But as Joe Murphy mentioned, the best arrangement is for you to have alternative arrangements than the evacuation centre itself. So friends, family, work colleagues. We're only talking about a short amount of time that we may have to keep people out of their houses.
Do they separate cats and dogs?
I understand in Tuggeranong, Mark, that cats and dogs live together quite nicely.
Looks like it's two comedians here tonight. Lady in the left, we've got to go there.
Okay, this was a follow-on question around phones and alerts. The other day we could be in Puyallup fires where phone lines were now active Wi-Fi and mobile. Has that been sorted out?
Yeah, so I wasn't.
I know none of us have phones.
So I didn't know about the landlines. I didn't realise the mobiles. So, yeah, okay, yeah, that's cool. So I wasn't aware that mobiles went out to do the bid. So whereabouts were you when that happened?
My son and daughter-in-law evacuated to my place from Trenton. They and interestingly enough, it was all the way here. So here in Tuggeranong, there were no landlines and no NBN.
Okay, so I live up the road. I had full internet and mobile coverage up the road from my place. I know, that's cool. It's just interesting. We're seeing a few correctly. All right, so we actually at our emergency coordination centre right now. We have a Telstra rep in there right now. We'll take that as a note, and we'll cover that. We'll come back to the one. We'll put that out on social media as well once we find out what's going on. Right, gentlemen there.
The weak point in my house is the wooden deck. How would you recommend that I deal with that just prior or when there's an evacuation call?
Okay, are you staying or are you going?
I would tend to go, but I want to do something to prepare. Is there any point?
Look, here we go.
Okay, wooden decks are great. They're nice to sit on. Make sure everything underneath that deck is clear as best you can. If you've got a leaf blower, blow the leaves out. Make sure there's no grass growing underneath it. Make sure it's nice and clear. Then it has the best chance of actually not being a hazard. Make sure there's no leaves caught in the gaps. Give it a good sweep if it's got any gaps to make sure there's nothing caught in there. And make sure you haven't got any vegetation like grass that's blown up or leaves that have blown up against the house where the deck meets the house. If you keep that away, that's your best chance of keeping fire from actually taking on that deck. I would say you could water it before you go, but depending on how long that fire takes, it may dry out before the fire actually was to impact on that. So the chances of water working is variable. So.
Thanks, Chris. All right, going to the back, gentlemen in the high vis top.
Just a question for the
Minister about cleaning up sort of vegetation in not so much nature reserves, but parks and sort of walking zones like paths and so forth.
All right, so the question is about cleaning up trees and litter around the parks, around the urban areas, basically?
Not so much the nature parks,
around the urban areas.
the more urban ones.
Yeah, TCCS have a program of cleaning up urban parks that recently cleaned up around my suburb. I shouldn't say that probably, but done a really good job of cleaning up around the top of Corwell Hill, and they have a program of cleaning up those areas, the pathways through the parks as well. So if there's a particular park that you want it attended, we're happy to take that on notice and look after it.
All right, so I'm going to bring Chris back in. Just want to do a bit more a follow-up on this one. So it actually is important about, we live in an urban environment. We call it the bush capital for a reason. Trees everywhere. So Chris also, despite being rural liaison, works in my community protection and works in works in this area about when we put asset protection in as part of the strategic bushfire management plan. I know it's a document you can read if you need to sleep one night, and it has the bushfire management stands in it. Chris and Greg Potts, who are in that team, live this stuff. He's going to give you a quick talk about what this also helps with.
So part of the management of government land and large private land, so including all our farmers, is under the legislation, the Emergencies Act, they are required to prepare a bushfire operations plan. In that bushfire operations plan, we look at what all the bushfire fuel management zones, which vary from outer asset protection, inner asset protection, strategic fire advantage zones and agricultural fuel management zones and Aboriginal fuel management zones. Part of that is an assessment of what the fuel load is. Is it a grassland? Is it a woodland? You might see fuel and there might be a 30-metre gap between houses and that where we actually mow under the trees. The lower branches of the trees are pruned up to a higher level. That's where we've identified asset protection zones. If you think there's an area that there is a lot of fuel too close to the buildings, we do come out and check that to make sure that the works that are proposed in bushfire operations plans are undertaken. But we do identify, so we're not stripping large areas. It might be only 20 metres off the side of the road, either side of the road, and then we take that all into account to see what run the fire has towards infrastructure. And that helps us understand what actions need to be taken to reduce the risk of fire spread.
Which part of Takenot do you live in Takenot?
I actually live in Tharwa, right at the back of that fire, so.
You come down from where Takenot College is and you come down to the shopping centre here. On one side only, there's about 84 dead trees.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's...
And that's one small area of a roadway.
Yeah.
Why isn't someone cutting those dead trees out?
Okay, so the trees have been identified to be removed, but being Canberra's such a big place, there's a lot of work to be undertaken. Those trees there, because they manage the grass around them, aren't posing. They do pose they will attract fire more than the trees that are alive will, but they're not increasing the risk of impact to assets that within that vicinity, because the rest of the fuel is managed around them. Yeah, it takes a long time to get around this.
Alrighty, going down the back again, move over the back. Oh, over the back. Right, gentlemen here, with hand high, yep.
Just a question, if you want to mark yourself safe, is there an opportunity to do that here in the ACT? If you go to your relatives but you're in a state family, don't know where you are, can you mark yourself safe on a social media page or similar?
That I don't know about. I mean, I think this is about this personal choice and personal action type thing where you need to do this. So you're talking about in terms of us arriving at your place or something like that?
In Victoria during the Gippsland fires, many of the residents there were able to go onto a web page and mark themselves safe, so no one was looking for them. Is there a capacity for that?
Okay, so the question was about, can you leave somewhere in I'm assuming a very secure location, the fact that you've left your premises and you are considered safe, and so you're actually out of state is what you're saying?
Yeah, basically.
We'll have a look at the Victorian one and have a look and see what that really means. I wasn't aware of that one.
Okay.
You can talk, all right, cool.
If we go to large-scale evacuations at that time, we will engage with Red Cross to activate Register, Find, Reunite. That is the online website where we can track people who are missing. People can self-report that they are okay. They can also report people that they think are missing. And we can then collate that information to determine whether someone is actually missing or they just haven't told their family where they are.
Thank you. Righty, lady here. So this is like your barbecue one or your, no, I just want you to switch them off, leave them there. Make sure they're turned off though at the tap. Absolutely. That's gas bottles, folks. Gas bottles turned off tap. If you're going to evacuate the house, walk outside, turn off your gas main, and if you really want to, pull the main trigger on the electricity on your house as well. Right, you've had that arm up for a long time, sir.
Related to those community services, if in the case of an evacuation but we've already left, is there something we can leave at that house to indicate that we've gone to, save your resources for everything else?
Right, so the question is, do we leave a marker outside our house for the looters? So, look, the reason I jumped and made it, and I'm sorry to make a bit of a light joke out of that, following the South Coast fires, police were pulling up looters everywhere. You know what? So it is disgraceful that people take the prey on a situation like that. It is absolutely disgraceful. The police do a fantastic job to try and control that. We don't want to make it any easier than what it is. So please don't do it. Let your family know what's going on. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not hearing, so I actually finished my online law for you guys to come around and bash around.
Excellent.
Is that okay?
Yep. So this the lady hard of hearing has a big sign on the door that says inside hard of hearing, bash harder. A really good idea for those who are in a similar situation. That's pretty well it. Thank you. Yes. So the question is, what do we do about the vulnerable in our community, particularly those who might be mobility disabled? Okay. So for those who've listened to me on the radio for the last 3 years, the thing I've talked about is you do your bushfire survival plan and you complete it in your house, then I want you to go next door and ask them whether they've done theirs. And this way we'll turn it into a community. And you'll be amazed at how many people live around you and they go, holy dooly, you're in a wheelchair, you're mobility, you might be hard of hearing or whatever it is. But yes, there are plans. We have some records and we reach into the Community Services Director to get this information about who is disabled. We did this for the Tharwa, and the lady there self-evacuated before the fire actually came down the hill, which was fantastic. She made a really clear early decision to get out with her kids, and I really suggest that. But we do have some access to some records through the Health Services Directorate, and we'll proactively do that. But I'm saying right now, leaving early is your safest option, and that's for everybody. No, that's cool. Yeah. We absolutely do think about it. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Just to clarify, if you go to the evacuation centre, do you have to turn your gas and electricity off? Or do you just...
So if you're going to evacuate your house and you're thinking you're going to be gone for a while, I mean, if you really think the fire's going to get to your house, I'd suggest you turn it off. It's going to do no harm by turning it off. That would be my suggestion. It will do no harm if you turn off your gas and electricity. The worst thing is you've got to turn it back on when you get home. All right, yes, sir.
With your modelling, do you anticipate any power loss or loss of telecommunication systems around the power area?
All right, so the question is, with the fire that's currently out there, will we have a telecommunication impact? We're working with Telstra to work out, understand what that means, certainly further down in the valley. Chris probably knows more about this than anybody else, so I'm going to hand over to Chris.
So what we know as critical infrastructure, so communications infrastructure, power infrastructure, we do a lot of asset protection stuff. I don't know if anybody's seen, we had one of the very large air tankers flying over the top of Mount Tennant, dropping retardant up around there. We have a lot of really critical infrastructure up there for communications. If you've seen on social media the helicopter that we have that does all the video linking for us, a lot of communication stuff up there for that. So we identify that and we put in containment, whatever we can do for containment, whether it's using machines to clear vegetation or putting in retardant lines. So we identify that to try and reduce the impact. Yeah, so we do have a mapping system that shows us where all the power lines are. Transgrid in this at the moment are assessing all their large transmission lines across the Tharwa area there, where in the area where the bushfire is moving around, to make sure that it's not going to have impact on that infrastructure. Evo Energy has been out and they have been putting in retardant on the bottom of their power poles to try and reduce the fire impact on those power poles. So that work gets undertaken to try and reduce that impact on that infrastructure.
All right, anyway, so up the back, we're still very quiet up the back again. All right, lady there. Yep.
I've got a question about containment lines. So understandably at the moment you're focusing on containment lines between the fireground and the rural interface. Are there contingencies, and how many of those contingencies are there between the villages and say of Tharwa and the urban interface, say to Point Hut and over the Lanyon grassland between there and...
All right, so the question's about what containment have we got in place to protect the Tuggeranong community, my operational guy.
So we've been working with those landholders, as I've mentioned before, putting in containment close to Namadgi National Park within the rural lands. Once we've got beyond that sort of and using those heavily grazed areas as containment options as well, we actually had graders from the Defence Force brushing up fire trails on Amber Ridge at the back of Gordon, and we're also looking at from the back of Banks here and also opening up along the Geiger Line Nature Reserve as well. So we're identifying those to try and limit the impact of the fire there. So they're the two contingency lines that we are putting in at the moment, and also using that heavily grazed area between the park and the suburbs.
So I just want to talk about that heavily grazed area. So right now, those who have been out down towards Tharwa, if you do around anywhere, Monera Highway, anywhere like that, you see the grass is really short. Now that doesn't mean it won't burn, it'll still burn and it'll travel very fast. The Beard fire is a perfect example of that. But there's not a huge amount of fuel out there. It's not going to carry a huge amount of fire for very long. It'll travel very fast, it'll be very hot, it'll be very smoky, it'll be scary as heck. But grass fires like that travel very quickly and they're gone past very quickly. What we're saying is the grass out in some paddocks is this long, in some paddocks it is like dirt. I mean, Chris is out there a lot, there's just nothing out there. It's just been grazed by the kangaroos and by the cattle and the sheep, just to nothing. Alrighty, down the back here. Yes, sir.
Yeah, if a fire comes from the south or the southwest, what's the likelihood of losing mains water pressure and when?
Losing mains, so what's it likely of losing in the city?
In the suburbs.
Okay, so so Icon Water are part of our SEMSOG, the Security Emergency Management group that I talked about before. They've advised that actually they've got this really good water available to us. The water actually comes out of the Cotter Dam, and then the two dams above it, and comes out of Googong as well. And it's in the pump system there. Where you might see a drop in pressure is if there's a large fire approaching and the fire trucks start drawing water out of the hydrant system. They will override simply because they can draw faster and harder than what your garden hose requires on gravity. They pull the water out of the system, whereas you're relying on the gravity to do the work. So in that event, that'll be fire trucks pulling all the water out of the hydrant system. But that's where, get your plans in place early and make sure you're prepared. Alrighty. Lady with the bright fingernails. That lady there. Lady with bright fingernails.
Are we going to use the yellow benign home thing that I heard about? Now, like, say we're asked to evacuate.
Yeah.
There was an area where they put their yellow things out and that person knows that they take. Are we using that?
No. That's part of that idea where we tell the looters that you've gone. So please don't do it. So let's be really clear about that. If you evacuate your property, if you leave your property for whatever reason to go to a respite centre, to go to an evacuation centre because we've evacuated, if you go on holidays, do not leave your bin out. Do not put any signage out there that says, I've gone away, that I've left my house unoccupied. Anything else, Rob? Cool, thanks. Right, lady there. Yeah.
Can I just check with Chris? So I was trying to understand where the containment lines are. So for example, for those of us in Conda, we're on the back of Tuggeranong Hill. And if it spots, it's quite possible that it will spot and it'll all the dry stuff there. Are there containment lines around Conda as well?
So the question is about containment around Conda, Chris.
So currently there's an existing trail network just behind the houses there.
Yeah.
So that trail work's quite substantial as it is. But what we'd do if there was a fire to spot into Tuggeranong Hill there, we'd very quickly get earth moving machinery, whether it was a bulldozer or a grader. They're our two best options. We would brush those tracks up again to make sure we're clearing any vegetation that may have fallen on them, bark, leaves, that sort of stuff, or any grass that's grown up through them, just to bring that back to a mineral earth line. And we'd be able to activate that very quick. We've got quite a bit of plant on our hands.
And I'm assuming if it all goes to worms, you guys have spotters looking for spot fires coming into Tuggeranong and the Orroral Range, that kind of thing.
Yep. So yeah. So we do have some platforms. So we've got a great intelligence gathering aircraft that is able to pick up thermal and video link straight into, and great zoom to zoom in on these fires and check areas. And we do use them. But if you do see something that is unattended, there is if there's flames coming up and you see that there's no red and blue flashing lights next to that, do call 000 and give us a really good location on where that is so we can get to it as efficiently and as quickly as possible.
Just want to mention further about those fire trails, but also how we get our tankers around and our units around to get the water out there. So the fire trails provide two purposes. One is they're a buffer between you and the fire. The other one is that's how we get our firefighters in ahead of the fire and move them around as well. And don't forget, as Chris said, really good point. An unattended fire, not smoke, fire, 000, give them exactly where you are. If you want to know where you are, download the Emergency Plus app, please. Great app, tells you exactly where you are, lat and long. Be patient with the operator while you read out what the numbers are, and they'll get crews straight to you. Alrighty, lady here.
Sorry, I'm having a second with you.
I think you
very much for everything that you're doing for the community. I mean, I think we're all very appreciative of the information. Our concern is body confident here is that we have a neighbour who backs onto our highways, who has been asked many times to clean up his property. And in the middle of all this, there is a massive, I don't know what sort of tree, it drops bark and huge great big leaves on highways. And I spoke to authorities today about can someone go around and talk to him and say you won't listen to me or any of the neighbours. And this, we're talking about spotting and everything else, and that's what I think is our biggest concern. What can we do about this neighbour who literally it's a tinderbox waiting to happen?
Alrighty, so this is about a neighbour who you, and it's about you, are suspecting has a fuel load in their backyard, which is unreasonable. So you can go onto the ESA website and you can actually lodge a fuel hazard complaint with Fire and Rescue. Yep, you've done that. What? Okay, we'll take that one on notice. We've got this recorded, Alan? Yep, thanks. Alrighty, so we're going to get the last three questions. Yes, sir.
What is the best time to actually fill your gutters with water, and what's the best way of blocking a rectangular cross-section?
I'm glad you asked. So what you can do is you can go to your favourite hardware store and buy rectangular plugs that go inside the gutters. Sorry, the question is how do you block your downpipes, particularly rectangular ones? You can go to your favourite hardware store and you can buy plugs that go inside either rectangular or round. You can buy them from your favourite hardware store. When should you do it? You should do it before you leave. Don't be a doomsayer. I'm sure they'll get more in. I'm sure there's somebody here. I'm sure there's somebody here will be working from the favourite hardware stores right now ringing the boss guns. We need to get more in. You can use rags. Okay, so you can use rags. You can use just be a bit ingenious about it. People use tennis balls for round ones. Use a tennis ball. Okay. Yeah, then and shoot. All you got to do is just block it a bit and put a bit of rag around. Remember, you don't have to flood your gutter with water. It's about making the gutter wet enough so it stops embers from burning. That's what it's about. It doesn't need to be this deep, just needs a little bit deep. Alrighty, second last question. This lady.
I noticed that this was recorded. Is that going to go on social media for people that couldn't be here?
Ali?
I'm recording the questions that are taken on notice. I'm not recording the actual responses. There will be visual that will go up as a video, but I'm not recording the entire thing.
Alright, so that was a question about what's going to be put up online. So this is Ali, so she works with our media team. Ali will be putting segments of this up online, on Facebook.
I'm not recording your audio.
No? Okay. So what are we going to put up? Anything?
A post that it happened.
Okay, post this
So
up.
here are the ones that get the...
No, that's alright. And we're going to do some follow-up on there with some of the questions that have been asked.
Yes.
Yep, cool. Alright, getting down to the last question. It's going to be this lady down here.
Thank you. My query is on, you know how you were saying the landline message and the mobile, when it gets that, is that just Telstra phones,
No.
or will that be across the board,
It's-
Vodafone?
So that's a question about the emergency alert. It is across the board. It is all phone carriers. Works through all PABXs. So that includes business PABXs as well. And it just nails every single phone in the area, regardless of carrier. All right. So we've got a begging one last question.
Does it always come from the same number?
Say again, sorry.
Does it always come from the same number?
No, it does not.
Right.
No, the emergency alert comes from a number.
A number.
A number. I don't know what the number is. All right, folks, we're going to call it there. The night is getting on. But I just want to pass on two last things. One is, thank you very much for coming down today, for being in attendance and asking your questions and being really respectful and courteous about it. You had to be crammed in here. It was hot as heck when we walked. We all sort of crammed in here. I hope you have got something out of this tonight. You can, if you need follow-up questions, send them to esahaveyourSay@act.gov.au. It'll take a little while for us to return those questions because we're just really busy right now with the fire. We will get back in touch with you. Please stay in touch with our ESA website, Facebook, Twitter accounts. Follow your local media. Now, the last one I want to mention, and this is kudos to the people like Chris in the world and the Rods in the world. Without the support of the people who support these people, so without their families and their employers and their friends letting them do what they do, we, as in the Rural Fire Service and the ESA, cannot keep Canberra safe. I just want a big clap for them. Well, folks, it's been a good night. Thank you very much for coming. Grab a beverage. And we'll be here for a few more minutes if you want to come and chat.